I'd like us to use the next half hour for contemplation, and I'll mention some other possibilities that can be used for contemplation other than the ones we have already discussed, such as the loving kindness contemplation and the 5 daily recollections. It's very useful to have a look at impermanence, not as a word but as an action within oneself. Decay, disease, and death are impermanence. All that is mindy and delightful must change and vanish. That's impermanence, one of the 3 characteristics of the universe. But of course, everything else that happens within us is also impermanent. So it's extremely helpful to have a look what's going on within and recognize it as constantly changing. Now, the repetition and the continuity of it all hides the impermanence, because there's a constant repetition of breath, a constant repetition of thought, a constant repetition of sensation and feeling and sense contact, and a constant repetition of the physical cells coming back together. Because of that continuity seems to spell solidity. It would be very helpful to have a look within and to see that there is only this constant change. And if one likes, one can, of course, as most people do like to do, try to find something which appears to be solid. Try and find it, it's perfectly all right. But don't fantasize. If you can find something that's solid, that never changes, that has absoluteness and not relativity, if you can look for it and then find it, investigate it again, if you come to the conclusion that there isn't anything like that, it will certainly help to recognize the rest of oneself in a different way. It doesn't matter which one of the 3 characteristics of the universe one investigates. One can investigate impermanence, dukkha, or non-self. They all lead to the same result. But impermanence is the easiest one to investigate, at least for most people. It just takes attention, real attention to what's going on within oneself. One can use the outside also to help to support the understanding. Can I find something out there that's permanent, absolutely and utterly permanent? In the last course, somebody thought he or she, I don't know, had found moon and stars to be permanent. Well, we know they're constantly changing. We can actually see it optically. And that they are continually and utterly permanent, we also know that that's not so, that we can't optically see. So if you think you found something that's permanent, look again. It's an innate human characteristic to try and find something that is so solid that one can hang on to it, which because we think that will support us. Nothing outside of ourselves supports us. Nothing at all, because it's all changeable. And not only that, it's only material. It's on the level of materiality, of the world. It can't support. Because basically and truthfully and radically seen, we are not materiality. The body is. But that's all. That which is really us is something different. So it can't find outside support. And yet we're always looking for it because we're feeling so insecure. So if you think you've found something that's really solid, have a look and see why you want that to support whatever idea one has. Because if one accepts the changeability, the impermanence, the transparency of all that exists, accepts it fully and lives with it, it's utterly relieving. It's not something which is difficult or bringing with it some sorrow. On the contrary, it removes sorrow. Because if it isn't constant, if it doesn't have solidity, what is there to worry about? We're constantly worrying about making things a little more solid than before. And we never, ever succeed. But we have to experience that ourselves. It's a personal way of delving into the depths of absolute truth. To do that kind of investigation, and it's entirely up to you whether you want to or not, you can contemplate any of the other items we have talked about in any which way you like. But if we do that, what I've just outlined briefly, that is actually the second factor of enlightenment, the investigation into absolute truth. It only becomes a factor of enlightenment when it has been perfected. That's obvious. But it is the pathway, that investigation, and I'm only suggesting impermanence at this point in time, because that is the one we can most easily recognize. If there's any resistance in the mind to recognizing impermanence within oneself, then you know already that the clinging is extremely strong. That too is an insight. Nothing wrong with that, it's an insight. So in order to start, we'll put the attention on the breath for just a few moments. Have a feeling of love and compassion for ourselves.